going to call the public hearing to order. Public hearing on the zoning code changes to section 1133.08 that are detailed in ordinance 2024-17. And with that, Mr. Creech, would you please update us on that?
Good evening, City Council. So there are actually two ordinances here, and just one of these require a public hearing, but I'll go ahead and discuss both of these. Ordinance 2024-16, that amends the Sharonville Codified Ordinances, section 130501. So what this amendment does, it does a couple things, and I've bulleted these items here. So it allows property occupiers, not just property owners, to be subject to the property maintenance code in terms of violations. Our zoning code already permits that. So we're proposing to change the property maintenance code. So as you're aware, our department enforces zoning and property maintenance against commercial and residential properties whenever there are violations. In addition, the amendment allows for repeat property maintenance code violators to be cited directly to the mayor's court. And under two provisions: one, if there is a prior violation within the previous 12 months, and second, as long as the property ownership has not changed. And that is very similar to the ordinance change that we made to the high grass ordinance last year. So it's basically the same thing. It also allows, and this is kind of an administrative change, that BZA board members who actually hear appeals to the property maintenance code or the zoning code, that they be compensated for their time. So it's a notwithstanding ordinance is what it's called. So basically it recognizes them as not being city employees, because it wouldn't be fair to have an actual city employee being the one to sit on an appeals board for violations. So the other ordinance is 2024-17, and that's the one that's actually subject to the public hearing. So basically I've got the existing and proposed language here so you can see it. So what you see there that's not highlighted, that's the current language. And then everything that's highlighted, that's the language that we're proposing to add. So basically we're adding the section about the 12-month period so we can, again, cite repeat violators within that 12-month window to the mayor's court. And B, this is really getting down to the details there. Basically, we would check with the Butler County Auditor to make sure there's been no change in property ownership. So it's spelled out very, very clearly in the ordinance. And if that hasn't been the case, then we would be able to cite them directly to the Sharonville Mayor's Court for a second similar violation within a 12-month period. So the proposed zoning amendment, that second one there, that again, it's to make these two codes very similar as far as our application and enforcement throughout the city. Zoning code, property maintenance. Planning Commission reviewed and approved what you saw there, the requested zoning ordinance amendment at their February 14th meeting by way of Resolution 2401, and they recommend approval. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Creech from the board?
Hey, how you doing? I have one question. So, for these zoning infractions, will they be? Will it be a fine? I take it.
So the way it works is, yeah, we cite someone that violates property maintenance or zoning. Well, the process is we write them a letter initially to correct the violation. If they do not correct the violation within the specified time, then they are cited to the Sharonville Mayor's Court. The magistrate who presides over that court has the ability to assess a fine as well as court costs, but that is up to the judge.
Okay.
Can I interject on that?
Sure.
So our ordinance carries a risk of jail time as well. There's no mandatory jail time, but there is a potential fine, court costs, and the potential for jail time.
Understood.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, are there any questions from the audience this evening? Mr. Schmidt, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please?
Jim Schmidt, 12215 Pickwick Place. My question is, as far as you said that the tenant would be notified. We were in a situation where a car was parked on property that we own, but we lease out. The tenant was not notified. We were, as the property owner, we were notified, but the tenant was not. Now, if the property owner is working with the city, cooperating, trying to do everything that they can do to get the situation solved, the property owner could still be cited to mayor's court and have a jail time?
I don't know if Mr. Creech wants to step up and answer this question, but I'll try to answer it, and he can kind of be waiting in the wings and correct me if I'm wrong. So Donna Hollingsworth, our current code enforcement operative.
She's who wrote the letter to us.
Sure. I have not had a situation or a case come before mayor's court yet where the property owner or property occupier in the future has been working with Donna to rectify the problem. The cases that get cited to mayor's court are the ones where the owner, or in the future owner/occupier, are ignoring Donna's repeated requests to correct the violation, or are responding and are in total disagreement about whether or not a violation has occurred at all. Mr. Creech, do you want to verify that that's correct, or anything else to say?
Yes, that's correct. And yeah, I'll also add that out of the maybe 600 or so violations that are issued on any given year, there's probably maybe less than 50 that get to the point where it has to go to mayor's court. So I think in this example, he probably got a letter, and that's all it was. It never went to mayor's court.
It said they would take us.
Right,
We
the
got
letters.
problem solved.
Yes, yeah, the letter does say, yeah, if you do not correct the violation within a specified amount of time, that, yeah, could potentially be cited to the Sharonville Mayor's Court.
One of the problems that the car that was parked was actually owned by somebody that lived in Evendale, that we didn't know who he was. Fortunately, the letter we got from your department had pictures of the car and the license plate number. I went to the Sharonville police and talked to an officer, and he looked it up and he said, do you recognize, gave me a picture, do you recognize this person? No. Do you know this name? No. And he said, I will contact him and tell him that if the vehicle isn't moved by, I don't know if it's tomorrow morning or 2 days, whatever, that Sharonville police would tow the car. And it did get moved that night. So, I don't know. I mean, it was something we had no control over.
Understood. Let me say this. You're a responsible landlord. There are those in the city who are not as responsible. Whether or not you interpreted Ms. Hollingsworth's letter with the mayor's court admonition as just informative or threatening, I can assure you that you were never in danger of being cited to mayor's court because you were communicative with code enforcement and the community development department. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
I understand
okay.
what you're saying. One question I do have, though, is the way this reads, that the tenant would be notified first. Is that new part of it? Or?
No,
It's actually,
we will continue to cite the property owner.
it establishes what would be akin to,
The tenant was not involved. The tenant had nothing
right.
to do. Somebody just parked the car.
What this establishes is the opportunity for the city to also hold occupiers liable. It would be akin to like joint and several liability like we talked about in civil law, where the city has the option of notifying / citing either or both.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this public hearing? All right, Seeing none, I will close this public hearing this evening. All right, let's open the regular meeting call to order. If we can stand, Mr. Cook will lead us in a prayer and moment of silence and pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Buhite, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mrs. Knight?
Here.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as distributed from our last meeting? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as written and distributed. Reports and communications, Mayor Hardman.
Thank you. I'll take care of business first. That is our monthly Mayor Court report for the month of February 2024. We had total revenue of $21,435.53, bringing our year-to-date revenue of $42,468.13, which is running ahead of last year, which means, unfortunately, people aren't following the rules and they're coming to court. So the full report will be made part of the minutes of your meeting tonight. I want to thank David McCandless, our Economic Development Director, for an excellent job this morning putting together our Sharonville Business Appreciation Breakfast. It was a very well-attended meeting, a pretty full house of businesses throughout our area. Lieutenant Governor Husted did a great job sharing about things that are going on in the state of Ohio to further economic development, and our own Will Nelson at the Convention Center did a great job sharing about the great things that are happening over there with our new expansion. So it was a great event, a great opportunity for our businesses to hear about Sharonville and see what's going on. And I think the best compliment I got was one of the attendees afterwards said Sharonville is being talked about out there, and it's good amongst the business community. So I always like to hear that. I think David is doing a great job getting out there, doing that, letting folks know that we want you to do business in the city of Sharonville, and we will certainly try to find ways to help you succeed and make that work, because our city doesn't run without good folks that are working within our limits to make that happen. So it was a very good morning. Glad some of you were able to make it today. Speaking of events, this Friday, another long-term police employee will be retiring, so we will be celebrating him starting at 1 o'clock Friday, Mr. Mark Pruce, Lieutenant Mark Pruce. So if you have the time to stop in Friday afternoon, please do so and give your best wishes to him as he ventures into that next chapter of his life. That is all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. A couple things before the legislation. First, this afternoon we were informed by Ohio Business Magazine that for the 8th year in a row, we are being named a best workplace in Ohio. Off and on, there's some other cities that have made the list periodically, but we are the only community that has made that listing for 8 years in a row. Given that, I want to thank Rachel Combs and the Wellness Committee for their efforts contributing to this, Mayor Hardman for his leadership in creating a wonderful workplace culture, and City Council for funding a lot of those efforts. Second, Emmy Randall and Troy Miller are here tonight from Metro to talk about their Metro Now services. They are coming up on a year in making that available to the communities in the region. So we thought it would be a good time to update council on where they're at in Sharonville, and I'll open it up to them.
Good evening, Council, President of Council, Mayor. First, I'd like to say thank you for supporting the tax levy. That's why we're here tonight. Because if it wasn't for the tax levy, we wouldn't be doing this new services that we're doing, right? So, what we're gonna give you an update on Metro Now, how the service is working, and also I wanna thank you for all the support you guys. I know Jim was recently at one of our events on the MTIF, we call it, Metro TIF money, so you guys were awarded some money through that process. You guys, Ms. Randall, with the presentation tonight, after she gives the presentation, you guys got any questions, we can answer them, we will. If we don't have an answer, we will get it back to you as soon as possible. If you have something other than what we're here for. Seems like we get asked about BRT stuff all the time, but we're not here about BRT stuff tonight, so, I'll throw that out there right now. That, I hand it over to Randall, Senior Manager of Planning and Mobility and Demand.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us tonight. I'm very excited to share with you a little bit more about Metro Now, how that service is going, and where we're going next with that service. I do want to just take a quick moment to introduce someone else from our team tonight. Alex Osborne is a service planner who's going to be assisting on this project moving forward. He's fairly new to the team, but he is a Sharonville native and lives in Sharonville now, so we're glad to have him. And he rides the bus downtown every day to get to work from Sharonville, so it's a great opportunity to have those services in the community. So Metro Now, has anybody tried Metro Now or ridden the service? No one?
I was on it just.
Did you see the van outside?
Just got it.
Okay, very good. So this is an innovative new service that we launched last year where we're using smaller vans.
Emmy, can you pull your mic down, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
That better? Where we're using
Okay.
smaller vans to circulate within our suburban communities. So we executed a study a couple of years ago to plan out where these zones would be within our communities. And the intent behind the design for these zones is so that we're providing short trips, short daily trips within communities to connect people to their daily needs, things like shopping, medical appointments, and work locations. And these are in communities to help supplement our fixed route service. Where we have fixed route is our areas of our highest density. So these are a little bit more suburban in nature and as a supplement, and also serve to connect people to our fixed route system where they can take longer trips. So we launched the Zone E that you see on the screen there, which is the blue zone. This is the Springdale-Sharonville zone. We launched that back last May. And then in July, we launched our second zone. That's Zone C on your map, shown in orange. That's our North Gate Mountain Healthy Zone. So trips have to take place within those zones, start and end point within the zone. And you can select any destination within the zone. It's door-to-door service. So this is a more detailed map of the Springdale-Sharonville zone. So it does include downtown Sharonville. Reading Road is essentially the boundary there on the east side. It extends up to your industrial areas covering Commerce Boulevard and Enterprise, up to Crescentville Road, and then it also includes Chester Road, Princeton High School, and the Convention Center area. This zone extends all the way over to Ken Road, just past Springdale, and then goes down to the Woodlawn Kroger area. These are what the vans look like. So they do accommodate 8 passengers and 2 wheelchairs within each van. So every van is wheelchair accessible. There's locations for 4 child seats within the van. And I also want to note that with each paying adult, 2 children under 37 inches can ride free. So that's another great feature of this service. You book a ride very similar to what you would do with an Uber or a Lyft type service. You can download an app on your phone to book a ride, or you can call into our dispatch center and a dispatcher will book that ride for you. It's a $2 flat fare, no matter if you're going from one far side of the zone to the other or just a couple of blocks, it's a flat fee. And then you pay that fee each way of your trip. Right now we're operating from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekdays, and then weekends are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's some screenshots of what the app looks like. So once you download the app and set up your account, if you have your phone's location services on, it knows where you're located. So you simply have to put in your destination and click Show Me My Ride options, and then it will give you either one or multiple ride proposals, and it will say, a van will arrive in 8 minutes, and your estimated ETA might be 20 minutes, just depending on what that ride looks like. So it gives you very clear information about when you can get the ride and when you can arrive at your destination. And then again, you can call our dispatch, and that reservationist will ask you where you want to go and book that ride and provide you with your pickup information. So how are things going? We are very pleased to tell you that within the first 6 months, we've provided over 20,000 rides. So this is from May until the end of December. I think we're at 35,000 rides or more by the end of February now. So these rides were provided to about 1,200 unique riders. And we do continue to see new riders come onto the system every month. So we haven't yet kind of hit the peak of the amount of individual riders that we're going to see with this program. And then this slide shows you in the blue bar, that's the Northgate Mount Healthy zone, and then the blue bar is the Springdale Sharonville zone. And as you can see, we've seen the ridership level out a little bit with the Springdale Sharonville zone. So we are looking to tweak that zone and provide some expansions, and I'll go into that a little bit more in depth later. But our on-time performance, so in February we had 5,200 rides. We're growing our ridership overall month over month. With each month we're growing it. And then our on-time performance is really, really high. So what that means is when you click on that ride proposal and you select, I want to book this ride, and it tells you the van will arrive in 12 minutes. 99% of the time, it's within 4 minutes of that time that it tells you. So it's very reliable from an on-time performance standpoint. And we're averaging about 100 rides each weekday and about 135 rides on the weekend. We suspect the reason that the weekends are a little bit lower is because it does have a more condensed time frame for that service that we're providing. And then this map shows kind of a heat map of where the rides are occurring. We get a lot of activity at the Woodlawn Kroger area. We're seeing a lot of riders being picked up from the Maple Knoll Retirement Community in Springdale. And then within Sharonville, we have some hot spots in and around the I-75 East Sharon interchange there, and then downtown Sharonville as well. We're not seeing quite as many rides within the business community as we had hoped to see in your industrial areas. So we are looking to do some additional outreach and engagement there. All right, so I'm very pleased to announce that we're going to be expanding the service. We're going to be expanding the Springdale Sharonville zone to add large portions of Forest Park and the Lincoln Heights community. We're also modifying very slightly the boundary all the way around the zone. What we learned was when we launched, the zone boundary was right down the middle of the road, for example. So you could get picked up on, sorry about that. You could get picked up on the west side of Main Street, but not on the east side of Main Street. So we've expanded that boundary all the way around to include both sides of all of the roads. And we've also added some of the area near that Bob Evans and the interstate interchange so that the hotels are included in those commercial areas. We hope to see a lot more rides and a lot of new riders come on with this zone expansion. We're also expanding the boundaries a little bit more slightly within the Northgate Mount Healthy zone. We're going to be adding the Colerain Township facilities and senior center, as well as some of the areas along Galbraith to the south of that zone. And we're also expanding service hours. We did conduct a rider survey back in the fall and learned that people were really interested in having service later in the evening. So we're gonna be expanding the service hours to 9 p.m. every day. Hopefully that'll help people be able to utilize the service for their return trip. For example, if they wanna go out to dinner or go see a movie, they have that opportunity now to get another hour of service on the weekdays and more evening opportunities through the weekend. So those are all coming on March 17th, just right around the corner. We've been doing some promotions, but we certainly would welcome anything you all can do to get the word out in your community and let people know about this service so we can continue to grow it. And then finally, I just wanted to note that we do have plans for another zone that will impact Sharonville down the road. As we roll out additional zones, this zone shown on the map here in green, this is the Blue Ash zone that stretches up to downtown Sharonville, and will provide access kind of to the southeast of Sharonville and down into the Blue Ash area. So that zone we hope to be able to launch either in late 24 or early 25, depending on van availability and driver availability. All right, that concludes our presentation on Metro Now. I'll be happy to take any questions that you have about our Metro Now service or our fixed route service.
I have two questions. First of all, there was a chart up there that was requests and completed trips. What is the difference? What is causing a requested trip not to happen? Or
So the requested trip is the nomenclature that the system uses anytime somebody gets on their phone just to check and see what rides are available. So if you were to get on and just look and see, I wonder if I could catch a ride here tonight, and you don't actually click and select that ride now, that's considered a ride request. So it's people getting on to check it out. We see people do that. Oh gosh, well I could get a van at 8 minutes. I'm not quite ready. Maybe I'll get back on in 30 minutes and try it now. So and we do have, my understanding from our service providers, that we do have a really high accepted ride rate.
and then with the expanded zones, it looks like those two other zones that you showed us on the last map, they overlap the current zone. Is that going to be is that what is intended? Like the one zone that already exists is going to remain intact. These two others will actually overlap and interact in some way?
Yes, so they are designed so that there's an overlapping opportunity if someone wanted to go within one zone and come to downtown Sharonville, and then they can pick up another ride to go even farther west. What we don't want to do is have the zones, each zone get so large that the system gets bogged down with those long rides. The idea is to turn the vans over quickly and provide a lot of rides.
So to build on the overlap, can you schedule that? So if I'm going from A to B and I'm in that overlap zone, do I have to then schedule my next ride, or can I schedule those two rides at the same time?
That is a really good question. We haven't gotten that far as to be
Okay.
able to answer that question yet, but.
Fair enough.
As we roll out the other zones, we will have all kinds of logistics and things like that to work out as to how those zones do work together and how people can use it to even schedule arriving at a fixed route bus stop to access the greater network.
Okay, and then I'm assuming then you would have like a fixed spot for to do the transfer all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Ideally, we would have some locations identified where that would be appropriate and the same thing.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Can you scroll up to your just previous slide there? Just a real quick question. So the Blue Ash zone in green, which is one of the next zones you might be considering, one of the things that I noticed that I think a lot of the population, residential population now in Sharonville is not in your current Sharonville-Springdale zone. It's just east of that. And I guess the question is, so if you're expanding the Blue Ash area into the green, that collects some of our residential population to the south. I wouldn't, since I live in that new area, I wouldn't be able to take that to somewhere in Springdale, correct? Or is that the transfer piece that you're talking about? I'd have to go within that
Right.
Blue Ash zone?
The way these were conceptualized would be, you would need to transfer.
Okay.
But again, we may be able to provide opportunities for zone-to-zone rides.
Okay.
We just haven't quite worked all those details out yet.
I think I was one of those that was on the app and looked at the time availability, but didn't book. So I am one of those that
And I've probably done it hundreds of times
Right.
myself as, managing the service and checking it out.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And we're always, open to feedback if you're hearing things in the community about the service, if you have any concerns or questions, or even ideas about things that should or shouldn't be included in the zone. We welcome that feedback.
Just a quick question. Are you finding, within your, your data, are you finding specific demographics, more suited or maybe more served by this at this point? I mean, are we more, I think you said grocery store and doctor's appointments, so I mean, that makes me think a little more senior population. Are you finding that at this point, or?
We are finding a lot of seniors are using it, and we're also finding that, youth, we get a lot of high school students that are using it to access social activities and practices and extracurriculars.
Let me piggyback on that. So this afternoon, I spoke at the Springdale Recreation Center, seniors, did a senior luncheon, and they asked us to come speak and explain to them how to use the service. And as most seniors, they're not going to use the app, they're not going to be using that app. So we have the phone number. And the one lady asked me today, she's like, hey, do I got to deal with a computer when I call in? No, we got people to answer the phone. So we can actually book the ride and help you on that.
Yeah, I'm president of the Sharonville Senior Citizens, and we have a lot that live up in our, we have a Golden View Acres, it's a community apartments for them, and a lot of them cannot make it to the meeting because they don't have a car. So I might bring this up at our next meeting to see if some of them would like to take advantage of it. And that was also my other question, do they have to have a computer? But you answered that, so there's a phone number.
If you want us to come out and speak to the senior center there, we will. I work in external affairs. We come out and speak to their meetings all the time. There was actually Coleraine and Springdale that did.
Okay, I'll get in contact with you. Thank you.
We might want to wait, because I don't think that
Yeah.
that is currently covered in
Oh,
their
it's not,
air,
okay.
in their, it will under the Blue Ash expansion. So we might want to hang tight till you actually start that expansion, because we don't want to put in their minds that something's available to them that's not quite yet. So, but yeah, that certainly is something that we hopefully will reach out, so.
That kind
All
of
right.
ties into my question. When's
I
that
can't see
expansion?
that on the map, so I'm good.
When's that expansion coming into play?
We can get buses
Okay, fair.
or vans or an operator. That's the very two struggles we have.
The minor tweaks that we're doing to the current zone, that's happening on March 17th. We were able to do that because we had some excess capacity within the zone, so we wanted to expand that opportunity to provide. That's the good thing about the service, right? It's dynamic, we can respond.
How many sprinters are running at one time in our area?
During busy times, there might be up to 4 within this zone.
And then I didn't know, did you say an age group? How young can you be to ride this? Do you have to be 18 or?
No, I believe it's the same as our fixed route, which I think is 12, unsupervised.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Randall or Mr. Miller? Thank you. Seeing none.
And then we give you squeezy buses for stress. Take the bus there. And also our van outside, we didn't see it. Pretty clear. I'll show you the van. You guys have one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all the questions, that's great.
All right, legislation-wise, John talked about the first 2 items this evening, and Steve's here to talk about the balance of the remaining items.
Good evening. I'm here today to talk about ordinance 2024-23E. This ordinance is authorizing Safety Service Director to sign a contract for Public Works Department to purchase a new brush chipper. This is a replacement of and to dispose of one of our existing brush chippers and to dispose of a lawnmower. But the purchase of this chipper is just a replacement of our existing chipper due to age and to maintain good operable equipment. The second ordinance, 2024-24E. Harry, I don't know how you read those numbers so much. That's adopting some legislation required by ODOT for the traffic signals and fiber project that we have. That was an OKI grant that we received, I think back in 21. We've gotten to the point where we are getting ready to bid that project, and this legislation is required. It will be an ODOT, the local project, ODOT let, and ODOT managed once it goes to construction. We will be installing fiber optic communications along Kemper Road, tying in our police station and tying in Station 86 on the firehouse to have a more redundant communication system and start building that backbone and expanding that backbone within the city. We're upgrading the traffic signal equipment at several intersections and adding some PTZ cameras as well as some detection. Any questions on either of those?
Thank you.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I have no report this evening as president, other than to thank Mr. Levitt for graciously filling in for me while I was out last month. So the seat is yours anytime you'd like to sit here and run the show. Appreciate it. Thank you. I would like to invite Ms. Anna Ellerding up. She's got a few city announcements to make. Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm here to talk to you about a couple upcoming events. First one is UC Health has partnered with Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Libraries, and for the last couple of years they've been bringing mobile mammography units to the branch parking lots. So something that we're really proud of in Sharonville is that our city has done such a good job getting the word out that last year was the first time they chose to have it at the same location twice in a year. So the first one that is this year is not next Friday, in a couple Fridays. Friday, March 22nd, 12:30 to 3 p.m. You can call 513-584-PINK to schedule your appointment for the mobile mammography unit. And then they're already on the books to come out later in the year. So I wanted to make sure that everybody in the community was aware of that. And then the next thing I'm here to talk about is, thanks to all of you in planning and approving the budget for the 2024 year, we've got our first new event at Depot Square this year. So we asked the community for feedback and ideas. We had some kind of on the back burner that we wanted to do. But something that we heard was, we want stories on the square. So essentially story time on the square. So our very first one that is coming this year is Saturday, March 23rd at 1 p.m. And it will be read by author and our very own Sharonville police officer, Joel Altman. He'll be reading his book, Mr. Redlegs and His Great Adventure. And what I'm particularly excited about is because of the connections that we have, we will also have Mr. Redlegs out for this event. So he is coming to Depot Square. We'll have popcorn, we'll have peanuts, we'll have fanfare. But it's pretty exciting that we get Mr. Redlegs the Saturday before opening day. So very excited, and we already have our inclement weather plan, built in. So fingers crossed, since we planned for it, we won't have to use it. But our backup plan is at Cincy Book Bus. So they've been a wonderful partner and have offered. So rain or shine, this event is happening. Thank you.
Will Mr. Redlegs be arriving on Metro now? Just a question. There you go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
Thank you. No report.
Thank you. Law Director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. No report unless anyone has questions.
Seeing none. Are there any residents desiring to be heard before council this evening? All right, seeing none. Breezing right through here. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that tomorrow evening in these chambers, the BZA at 6:30 and the Planning Commission at 7. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report for Budget and Finance and no report for Project Oversight, but I would like to get the word out that the next Project Oversight meeting will be Tuesday, March 26th at 6 p.m. in the Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. Community Services, Mr. Levitt.
Thank you. Report is on file with Ms. Buhite. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Honored citizens, Ms. Knight.
Yes, I have a personal honor tonight. Tonight I'm honoring Angie and Casey Kerrigan, Dave Donnelly, Sharonville Fire Department, and Sharonville Police Department. A couple of weeks ago, our neighbor left her garage door open for a long time. She's probably around 73 years old. Angie asked Casey and Dave to go check on it. Unfortunately, they found her at the bottom of the steps with just major injuries. The fire department came immediately, and they quickly got her on a backboard and off to the hospital, and then the hospital flew her to University. The police department, she lived there, they just moved in, they're brand-new neighbors. Haven't gotten any numbers or anything, but the police department found her son's number and notified him at work. He worked third shift. Her injuries were so severe that she did pass. But if it wasn't for the good neighbors, she might have laid there all night till her son came home from work third shift. But I just, it was just real shocking, but I'm so proud of the neighbors, and I'm so proud of the Sharonville Fire Department and Police Department, because they were just unbelievable. So they got there, and she was from the basement in the ambulance 5 minutes. It was awesome. So that's who I'm honoring tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Law and Public Safety Committee will be on Tuesday, March 19th, 4 o'clock, Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. Rule suspension and motions. Is there a motion for late delivery, or I'm sorry, motion for rule suspension for ordinances 2024-23E and 2024-24E? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, thank you. The motion is passed. Unfinished business, Ms. Buhite?
Sure. Third reading of ordinance 2024-16, amending Sharonville Codified Ordinance 1305.01.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 1305.01? So moved by Mr. Cox, second by Ms. Sharpshire. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-16 has been approved. Third reading of ordinance 2024-17, amending the Sharonville Codified Ordinance 1133.08.
Is there a motion for ordinance 1133.08? Mr. Tankersley, thank you for first. Ms. Knight, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt? Ordinance 2024-17 has been approved.
Thank you. New business, Mr.
Sure.
Knight.
First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-23E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract to purchase a chipper, dispose of an existing chipper and mower, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-23E? Mr. Cook, thank you for the first, and Mr. Lovett, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2024-23E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-24E, adopting preliminary legislation from the Ohio Department of Transportation and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-24E? Mr. Lovett, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2024-24E has been approved.
Thank you. The last and final call for any residents desiring to be heard before City Council tonight. Seeing none. Are there any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you. I had a request by Darren Up, the curator at the Historic Society. He's, if you're not a member on Facebook of the Society of Historic Sharonville's Facebook page, he is starting to put a lot of pictures up. So he asked that I bring it to everyone's attention, and if anybody out there in TV land is interested in it, they'd be more than welcome. They'd be happy. And also, they are open on Sundays. So stop in and see him. He's running out of room, but he's making room. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Looks like he was at Yuli's Beauty Salon taking pictures of the interior. He's got a lot of incredible pictures up there, so if you haven't seen that Facebook page, check it out. Yeah. Really cool. Ms. Sharpshire.
So this Saturday is the infamous Princeton Education Foundation Gala, 7 to 11. I'm going to read something from their website, just in case you are unfamiliar with the Princeton Education Foundation. It is a non-for-profit foundation created to support excellence in our children's education in the Princeton City School District. The PEF funds scholarships, programs, and purchases over and above what the school district provides in order to maintain the Princeton advantage. So I encourage anyone, if they don't have anything to do, I unfortunately am going to miss it. I'll be out of town, but if you've never been, you've missed a show with Rolling on the River. I'm just saying, if you've been there, you know, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters?
John is coming anyway, right? Because if we,
All right, any other matters? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment? Mr. Tankersley, thank you. Ms. Sharpshire for the second. We are adjourned.